Good to see you.
Hello, Mhm. Hi,
Hi,
everybody. Mhm.
Hi, Haley. Hi, Caitlin. Nice to see you guys nice and early. Well done.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Mm.
What day is it, Haley? Tuesday. You must have your presentation on Thursday this week. Yes, you're looking forward to it? You want to unmute yourself there?
Yes, I am looking forward to it.
How are you going with your opening sentence? Have you got that one nailed down?
Yeah, I've got the opening one nailed. It's just getting those, those points.
Okay.
Fine.
Awesome. So once you know your opening sentence, then you just have to remember the other letters that go with it, like the LOVE or whatever it is. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about how to practice that today. So congratulations on being here. And Yeti, how is your presentation going?
I can't say it's 100%, but I'm there.
You're getting there?
I'm
That's
trying my
good.
best. I'm here in US, Bethesda, Maryland, everyone.
Excellent. Lovely to have you here. Wonderful. Hi, Cash. Good to see you. So what the two people I've just been speaking to, they've actually been involved in this program for a little while, and they're structuring their speeches. Very different audiences, different topics, but the concept of how to put together a speech so that you can be really engaging with an audience and kind of get them to be really focused on you as a speaker, and more importantly, to act on what you're saying. That structure is pretty much the same for every speech that you do, in the sense of how it gets together. And I like to think of it a little bit like a car. So when you look at a car, like an automobile, pretty much every car has the same basic design components. You've got an engine, four wheels, a steering wheel. Those are the basic components. And that's what happens when you put together a speech. Hi, Shannon. When you put together a speech, you're putting together a vehicle to help you go from where you are here and to help your audience be transported to where you want them to be. And the leather seats and the air conditioning and the fluffy dice hanging from the windscreen, those are all things that make the speech unique to you, but the vehicle is consistent. So what we're going to do today is actually take you through some of the techniques that we're going to be helping you with as part of the Vocal Power group. So I'm going to make a couple of statements to you now. The thought of public speaking makes me really anxious. My mind just goes blank in the middle of a presentation. I really struggle to keep my audience engaged when I speak. These are the most common statements that I have heard personally throughout 15 odd years of teaching people how to be more confident public speakers. So if you have ever thought "me too" to any one of those sentences or those statements, can you pop a yes in the chat for me or a no in the chat for me? And that will give me a tool as to see whether you know how to use the chat and to see whether or not you are in the right place. Yes from Tash, yes from Shannon. Awesome. So yes from Haley and Caitlin and Yeti. So if you thought yes, me too to any of those statements, then you are in the right place. And believe me, you are not alone. So for those of you who aren't already aware of this, 7 out of 10 people rate fear of public speaking as being higher for them than fear of death. So death's here, public speaking is actually higher, which means that I think Seinfeld did this skit. At a funeral, 7 out of 10 people would rather be in the coffin rather than standing up delivering the eulogy, which is a scary statement when you really think about it. It's crazy, in fact. But so many people hate public speaking or think that the best they can do is to endure it. And that's just crazy. And I understand that because that's who I used to be. And I started doing public speaking at 15 and I was absolutely horrified by it. I was terrified. I was trembling. I would break out into a rash. And being of fair colouring, it was like big blotchy red spots all over my face and my chest and my arms. My legs would shake so much I could barely stay upright. And then add to that, I'd usually throw up either before or after. Never got to during thank God, but I was so overcome by terror that I really couldn't function. And all I thought was, I just got to get through it. I've just got to get through it. So for those of you who don't already know me, which I think is pretty much everybody here, my name is Danielle Drew, and I am a former terrified public speaker. Now I speak on camera and on stage around the world, and I can honestly say I actually enjoy it. I never thought those words would come out of my mouth, because for many years I thought that, there's these two groups of people, and there's this teeny tiny little group of people who are born with some kind of magical skill, and those people, they really enjoy public speaking. And over here we've got most people, and that's a really large group, and most of those people, they don't like it. And I was definitely not in the lucky group of the few people who were born with some kind of innate public speaking skills. And then I learned something, and this one thing really changed my life. I learned through a speaking coach that I'd hired that public speaking is a skill. It's a skill. It's like learning to ride a bike. It's like learning to cook. It's like learning to drive a car. It's a skill. And like any skill, it can be learned. Now that really blew my mind, but it also started me on my journey to become not just somebody who endured public speaking, but somebody who was actually confident in it and enjoyed it. So today I am going to share with you, as part of our Vocal Power community, our calls on how to actually enjoy public speaking by overcoming some of those common fears. So we'll just pop that screen over there, and when I share my screen, if you can give me a thumbs up to say you can see the screen. Can you see my mouse moving on the screen? Yes, beautiful. Okay. All right, so you can learn to be a better public speaking in lots of different ways. You can do online courses, and some of these are really good. I've done quite a few online courses. You can also do live training sessions that are often one day or a weekend. I've done the Speakers Institute boot camps, for example, which are 4 very intense days. And I've graduated from those programs, and some of those are really good as well. But what I have personally found is that those one-off sessions or those self-paced, self-directed learning programs didn't really help me achieve what I wanted to achieve, because I needed a roadmap. And that roadmap was really someone who would say to me, you're here, you want to be here, these are the steps along the way to help you get there. And the other thing I really struggled with a lot of these programs, especially the intensive one-day ones or the 3-day ones, was the sheer volume of information that was coming at me. And I know, from experience that I needed to learn in small chunks. You can't throw a whole lot of information at me. I need to learn in little chunks with time in between to absorb the information, which is one of the reasons I've designed Vocal Power Community with these weekly calls, because it gives you a little bit of information and some time to absorb it so that you can build on it. So that's the principle behind the structure. The other thing I really needed was accountability, someone to make sure I stayed on track and did what I committed to do. And finally, what made the most difference to me was having a coach, someone who would actually plan out the structure for me, tell me what to do, keep me accountable, and not just set me loose on a bunch of training programs or at the end of a 3-day weekend say, off you go. So that's what I found worked really well for me. So I've included all of these elements into the Vocal Power program, which includes training, live calls, which we're doing every week, a roadmap, which is personalized to your individual skills, bite-sized sessions, accountability, where I check on you to make sure that you are doing what you are committing to do and checking if you've got any issues. Also coaching, which we're going to do at the end of this call, and it is all part of developing public speaking confidence. So today we are going to cover how to master anxiety, some 3 particular pro tips that I found really useful for a whole group of people over the last decade or so in helping them improve their anxiety. And the other part of that we're going to have a look at today is how you practice, because the practice component can be really, really impactful on your ability to speak confidently. Then at the end, I'm going to ask you to share with me what your biggest challenge with public speaking is so that we can do a little bit of on-the-spot coaching to help you with that. So if you're good with that, give me a thumbs up. Excellent. Now, public speaking, let me just give you a definition here. Public speaking is talking to one or many, or anything in between. So if you're having a conversation with somebody else and it's a public speaking conversation. So it might be a phone call, it might be an online call, it might be a face-to-face call. It doesn't mean you have to be on stage in front of a group of 500 people. It can just be a one-to-one call. These techniques will help you with managing all of those scenarios. So first up, tips to master anxiety. You may have seen this before, particularly if you're from a martial arts background. It's called the power pose. And the power pose is a really powerful tip to help you master public speaking anxiety. And what you basically do is stand like Superman. You put your feet firmly on the ground, hands on your hips, shoulders back, and you take a few deep belly breaths before you speak. So before you actually start to talk, and I like to do this when I'm on stage, I do this sort of on the side of the stage when the audience can't see me. And when I'm about to start a call, I do it before a call as well. But you take a few deep belly breaths. So step back a bit, so it's right here in your belly, not up here in your chest. And this is where a lot of people breathe. So you want to breathe from the belly, and that opens up your diaphragm and it boosts your confidence. The other thing it does, it makes your voice immediately stronger and makes your voice sound more powerful. And from an audio perspective, it's like the difference between having a phone and playing music out of your phone speaker and having a full-blown sound system. So the sound coming out of your phone is going to be kind of tinny and not a lot of volume. Out of a speaker system, it's going to be much louder and more commanding. Now, this is an interesting pose because it kind of has this little mental trigger in the back of your brain, which reduces which reduces fear and increases confidence. Has anybody heard of Dr. Amy Cuddy? Anybody heard of her? She's a really famous psychologist in the US, and she did an entire TED talk on just this pose and how effective it is at handling fear and anxiety. So this is a fear and anxiety management technique that you can use in any scenario. It doesn't have to be public speaking. It does actually work in any time you're feeling really nervous or anxious. Okie dokie. Next tip is the grounding exercise. I love this picture because it's just highlighting the important points. You don't have to wear this outfit to do that, okay? The stripe-y socks are optional, but the purpose of the actual technique is that you put your feet firmly on the ground. And a lot of people tend to sway or hop from foot to foot when they talk. So keep your feet firmly on the ground and take a deep breath and slowly count to 5. So you're just going to put your feet on the ground, count to 5. So can you guys see my screen? Can't see. Okay, let me just, thank you for sharing that, Caitlin. There we go. Can you see now? Beautiful. Excellent, so everyone can see. Caitlin, can you see that screen okay? You're very polite. Excellent, okay. Good, thank you. Awesome, okay. So there's a picture. I was wondering why you weren't laughing at my joke about the outfit. I was like, okay. So that is the picture. So before you step up to talk, you put your feet firmly on the ground, take a deep breath, count to 5 in your head. Now, this also helps with your nervous system. And if you do that same technique during the power pose, and for those people who didn't see it, that's what the power pose looks like. If you stand with your hands on your hips and you ground your feet first, you can combine both of those tools and really help with your anxiety. So those two are about posture and breath. And the third one is probably one that is the most useful when you feel completely overwhelmed by anxiety and stress right before you're about to talk. And I'm going to demonstrate this one. So you take a big breath in, and then you let that breath out in a great big exaggerated sigh. And you actually make that noise, attractive as it is. You actually make that sound, because what that does is it releases all of the cortisol and the adrenaline in your bloodstream. So you take a deep breath in. We're going to do this at home. So breathe in. Everybody take a big breath in. And hold it, and let it out with a big sigh. That's the way. See how it immediately, what happens is it drops your shoulders instinctively. So that's a really instant way to release tension. So it's like when you flop onto the couch after a big day at work. So those are 3 great tools for you to use to be able to become more confident in appearance, if not in practice. So even if you don't feel more confident, you will look more confident when you first start to speak. The power pose, the grounding exercise, and the sigh of relief. So let's stop sharing there, and I'm going to ask you guys which of those you find is the one that you think you could probably start to use straight away. So let's start with you, Hayley. Which one of those do you think you could use for your anxiety or stress when you're speaking? Which one kind of rung a bell for you?
Because I walk around when I'm delivering my talk, probably the sigh.
Sigh, great, excellent. And when you're walking around, walking is great. Make sure when you're standing that you've planted your feet. Now, a really good comedian and comedians are fantastic to watch for body language when you're studying public speaking. Michael McIntyre is a UK comedian. He moves on the stage all the time. His body language, if you don't actually turn off what he's saying and watch his body language, he does a lot of stage movement, but when he's standing, he keeps really still. So if you're nervous and anxious and you've got shaky legs, the grounding one's really important because it helps to keep you stable. But if you are confident about moving around, and with your topic, that's probably something you will need to be doing, then just be mindful of when you do stand, don't cock your hip out. So that's a really good one to keep in mind. So you'll be able to practice that on Thursday, right, Hayley? Excellent. Okay, Tash, which one did you find kind of resonated with you there?
I've done the power pose before, and that's always worked, making me feel good before I did anything. But I didn't know about the grounding and the sigh, so I'm definitely going to try those next time.
Excellent, thank you. And Yeti, did you have one there that kind of grabbed you? Just need to unmute yourself there, Yeti.
Okay, sigh of relief, because I'm a walker and I walk fast. So maybe that will help me ground myself.
Excellent. And if you guys had been watching like I was when you all did that, everyone did the same thing. It was like, here they're up here, and they drop down again. So when your neck's visible, you know you're more relaxed. When you've got no neck, you know that you're more stressed. So that's good. Excellent. Okay, so let's jump back in. So those are 3 techniques that you can start to use straight away. Little bite-sized chunks, and just choose one. Don't try and do all of them. Otherwise, you'll feel like you're a puppet trying to remember what you're going to do. Just choose one and kind of integrate that into your routine. Okay. So let's see. Can you see my screen okay? Yes, wonderful. Okay, so that's anxiety management. Second section that we're going to look at today is how do you practice? And this is probably one that's going to have the most impact on most people. In my experience, this is the one that most people will look at and go, that's not how I do it at all. So this is what I usually find happens when people are doing a prepared speech or a talk of some sort. We're looking at this pie. And this pie is the time available between when you are notified about the talk and when you deliver the talk. So that's the amount of time in total. Most people will spend this huge portion of the pie in preparation. They'll write the talk, they'll rewrite the talk, they'll research the talk, they'll write the talk again, and they'll prepare all of the information that they want to cover. And this piece over here, this is the practice piece. In fact, for most people, the practice piece is an even smaller slice of pie. In fact, I know many people who will prepare the talk and then they will practice it 10 or 15 minutes or an hour before the talk. Now, what I'm going to do today is introduce you to my biggest tip. and I call it the 50% rule. The 50% rule is that you spend half your time in preparation and then you invest half your time in practice. Now, the interesting thing about this rule is that let's say that you've got in total 10 hours available to prepare and practice your speech. If you spend 5 hours on the preparation and 5 hours on the practice actually works as a filter and helps you drop out all the stuff that doesn't work for you. So it's really a layered level of extra preparation on top. So most people do 95% of their time on the preparation and 5% of the time on their practice. So if you're looking at actually delivering a really confident speech and not forgetting what you're going to talk about, one of the best ways you can do that is to be so familiar with your material that you can remember it at the drop of a hat. And the only way to have that happen, other than formatting it in a particular way, is to practice what you're talking about. So if I was to ask all you guys now to say the alphabet, give me a hands up in the air if you could say the alphabet. It's the English alphabet, A, B, C, D. Everybody could do that, right? Okay.
Yeah.
What if I asked you to do it backwards? Anyone do it backwards at the top of their head? No. Anyone know why? Same letters. It's because we're not used to doing it backwards. We're used to doing it forwards. And how we learn the alphabet is we practice it over and over and over again. It's the same thing with talks. If you are allocating 50% of your time to practice, you're going to find a massive increase in both your confidence and your skill in delivering speaking of any kind, because you know your material better. It's as simple as that. Now, when you're practicing, this is really important. Practicing does not just involve picking up your talk and reading it. That's not practice. You have to practice out loud. Now, the reason you have to practice out loud is because you are delivering a talk. If you don't practice out loud, you may as well just email it to your audience, because you know, when you practice out loud, you're going to find those words that trip you up, that look fabulous on paper, and then you realize you get tongue twisted when you're actually delivering out loud. So the spoken word can sound much different too. So when you're delivering a talk, if you're practicing out loud, you'll start to hear some things. And this happens to me all the time. I will write a presentation like this one, and then I'll think of that language is perfect, and then I'll read it out loud and go, I can't actually form those words in that. When I'm reading them, they sound very different to when I'm saying them. So I get myself sort of stumbling over words. So it's really important to practice out loud. And we've got a great vehicle for doing that in our community. So we're going to introduce some practices in the community in the next coming few weeks. Next thing is, when you're practicing, record yourself. Just pick up your phone and record your talk. Now, the great thing about recording your talk, two really key benefits of recording your talk. First one is going to tell you whether you're delivering it on time or not, because you can read much faster than you can talk. So you could read a speech that goes for 20 minutes, but it'll take 40 minutes to actually deliver it out loud. So it'll help you with your time management. The other thing, it's the closest way that you will get to actually reproducing that live speech experience. So it's a really powerful way for you to practice. And if you record yourself, then you can then look back at it and see some things that you might need to improve on, or that your coach can help you to improve on. So those are our bite-sized bits today. The 50% rule, make sure you practice 50% of the time available. Practice out loud and record your talk. So, which of those techniques do you think might help over those last three? Anything in particular that grabs anyone's attention? Brett, you're a reasonably experienced speaker, so is there anything in there that was a surprise to you?
Not really a surprise, but something that I probably should do more of is practice. I'm very much a wing it kind of person when it comes to speaking. That's why I always seem to go overtime. So yeah, I know you've had to yank me off stage many times. Yeah, but yeah, if I practice, then I'd be able to, get my timing a bit better, which would leave me with some time for Q&As at the end.
Excellent. Great. So that's a good pickup, isn't it? Thank you.
Hmm.
Okay. And Hayley says recording her talk. I'm glad you raised that, Hayley, because that's the next step in your roadmap. Once you've got your points, is to start to record it. Awesome. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is to make this a really a way for you guys to kind of learn short, sharp techniques that you can implement straight away. We're going to come back together next week and we're going to do another skill and another session. But I do want to leave a few minutes open for Q&A, so you can feel free to ask any questions about public speaking that you're struggling with, or what your biggest challenge is, and that will also give us some guidance on what we're going to do. So this is your opportunity to create your own roadmap. So Yeti, let's start with you. Is there a particular challenge or a question that you have about public speaking that you would like some support on?
So from your speech today, from your coaching or training, one thing I learned, I did spend so much time drafting. I didn't do much practicing. I mean, look, about 5, 6, 7, 8 pages. I've been every evening, I try to put, maybe this is important, but I didn't practice. But I've been writing and writing. So I have an idea now what to do.
Fabulous. Very good, thank you. And Hayley, what did you what is it that you think you might change, or what questions do you have?
Yeah, mine's around, like, I've got my first leading question and I've got my 4-letter word. So it's really around how to create the content out of those 4 words to make a 5-minute talk.
Yep, so you've got 5 minutes. So
Yep.
I asked you, I think, to give me 2 or 3 points for each of those letters, which is your framework. So now you go and choose the best one. And when you're creating content, most of the content process is actually the elimination. It's deleting stuff that doesn't really, you should put down your content for each of those 4 letters. What were your 4 letters? Live?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So for each of your 4 letters, you wrote, I think I asked you to write 2 or 3 points. Pick the best one. And then when you've got the best one, then you start to practice. And then we'll come back and we'll add in your end sentence, which is as important. That's the bookmark. Your opening and your closing sentence are the bookmarks.
Okay.
Okay. Beautiful. All right. Shannon and Caitlin, did you have any questions that you wanted to ask? Not for Caitlin. Shannon?
I haven't done much public speaking at all, but I have an uncontrollable leg shake. If I ever have had to do it, it's awful. So I am going to focus on that grounding stance.
Yes, the grounding stance. And it's interesting. And so thanks for raising that, because the reason that we shake is because our body is pumping our system full of cortisol and adrenaline. They're stress hormones, and our body wants us to actually run or fight. So it's that fight or flight mechanism that's coming into place. So our body is so full of all of this energy hormones and chemicals so that we can either fight or run. And if you continue to pump that through without releasing it, then it's got to come out with the shakes. So what I actually do, this is another technique. I have a little mini tramp, and I got this off Tony Robbins. I have a little mini tramp, and I actually jump up and down on the trampoline when I feel really stressed or anxious, and that helps to get rid of the anxiety chemicals in my body. So actual movement can change your mood. And if you're moving around a lot, if you are somebody who's got those uncontrollable leg tremors or hand tremors, even just jumping up and down on the spot on your toes can be enough to wash that through your body. Because your body wants to move. That's what it's saying. I need to move. I need to move. I need to move. So if you do move, it's like, okay, we're done now. So try that. Thank you. Great question.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask each of you now what you found most valuable from our session today, and then we are going to close. I'm trying to keep this in a nice short time frame so that we can all use our time wisely. So let's start with you today. Caitlin, what did you find most valuable? And then I'll go to Tash.
I found about the grounding stance because I get very jittery as well. So finding that way to ground myself and not move around or jit about or things like that will be good. And to practice. I seem to just go through and wing things as well. So practice, practice.
Thank you, Caitlin. And we'll go Tash and then Brett. So Tash, what did you find most useful today?
Same, it's the practice because I have these issues in my head of like why, how, when, but a lot of that I think will be eliminated if I practice, and like I do video and say it out loud, but I don't practice it enough.
Excellent. And that is really common. So just doing that one thing is going to lift your skills massively. Thank you. Brett and then Yeti. So Brett, what did you find most valuable today?
Yeah, exactly. The practicing part, I'm very much the wing it. But yeah, like spending the time, like getting it right, perfecting it. Video analysis, we do it in every other aspect of life. So why not public speaking?
Exactly. And what we're going to introduce into the community is you guys, and I'll make Hayley and Yeti have a nervous breakdown. But what we're going to be introducing is actually videoing your talk and putting it into the community so that we can use that as a way of helping you to improve your skills and also showing other people how to do it, because we all learn from each other. Thank you. So Yeti and then Hayley. Did I
Okay,
start
so-
with you, Hayley? Yeah, go ahead, Yeti. What did you find most valuable today?
So most practicing, it's again and again coming to my mind. I'm processing that, but it is true. I would like to practice by speaking loud when I'm by myself. And of course, I need to record myself and then listen to myself again and again, where I'm pausing, where I'm making a mistake. So I really want to practice more and more, not only
Awesome.
writing, but practice in talking to myself and recording.
Yes. And thank you for saying that, because it just triggered something before I go to Hayley. How I practice, I actually have like a Google Home, and I put a music track on and I play it full bore so you can barely hear me, so that I feel like I don't, when you're practicing out loud the first few times, you can feel really uncomfortable, but I actually
Yes.
play the music and then I go wild with it, and I over exaggerate it, and I practice that way. So you can't, I can hear what I'm saying, but it's not really audible to anybody else. And it just gives me that energy boost as well. So that's a nice way to practice if you're feeling a bit uncomfortable about saying your speech out loud, or you're worried that either the sound of your own voice makes you cringe, which a lot of people it does, or you're worried about other people hearing you. That's a really helpful technique to practice in a way that can make you feel more comfortable. Thank you, Yeti. And lucky last, Hayley. Oh, sorry, Shannon after Hayley. Hayley, what did you find most valuable today?
I think the comedy, the stand-up comedy, I'm going to go and watch some for the body language and really take some of that on board.
That is a great reason to watch comedy. Thank you. And Shannon, what did you find most valuable today?
Well, being an absolute beginner of all of it was really helpful, starting with the breathing, that big exhale, I think, and then the grounding stance. But yeah, all of it, it's new to me. So it's all very valuable.
Right.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, thank you all. We are actually looking at moving this to potentially on a Monday. I'm just looking to see what the general consensus is. So if you are able to make the same time on a Monday, which for you would be a Sunday, Yeti, just give me hands up. If you can't, just leave your hand down so I'll know.
I'll be fine. The same time, Sunday?
Yeah, cool. Okay, great. Because we've got some people from the UK that I think will be able to make the Sunday. So that's great. Awesome. Thank you all very much. If you can go into the community and just write what you found most valuable, that'll encourage other people to come in and see this session as well. And it'll also bump you up the leaderboard, which will give you access to more content. Looking forward to seeing you all the same time next week. Check out the classroom so that you know what time it's on. And if you've got any questions, feel free to chat me in the community. Have a good afternoon, good evening, or good day wherever you are. Bye for now.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you so much.